Hi guys, it's Greg back for another deck profile, but before we get started I'd just like to say a couple things. First of all, sorry about how the last video came out. It seemed a little bit unprofessional. I had the jump cut, I was going around. That's what I get for not organizing myself properly before I do a video. I'm stupid sometimes, please ignore me. Let's get into it, shall we? Now some of you may have noticed that the last two decks I've made were both things that have gone to YCS, and you might be thinking, oh, you're one of those meta sheep, you just play whatever's popular. No, that could not be further from the truth. I actually hate people who play a deck just because it is popular. I play whatever I think is fun, and if it happens to be popular, that's beside the point. And I will prove that to you right now with one of my favorite decks, Sins, or as most people will know them, Malefics. Fuck you, name changes. Anyway, since Conrad Selig sort of brought the deck to people's attention last year, it hasn't been popular, but people have known about it, and I've seen a couple people playing it, and it's a nice little bit of anti-meta, so let's get into it. Obvious are 3 Cyber End Dragon and 3 Stardust Dragon, because they don't require you to run additional monsters that are ever dead, since they banish right out of the extra deck, and they're both amazing beaters. Field spells are easy to come by in this, and there's also skill drain. 3 Beast King Barbaros, because he drops at 1900, and if you've got a skill drain out, he goes to 3000. Pretty much any deck running skill drain will want a Barbaros. He's very nice. 2 Ancient Gear Gadgeltron Dragon. It's a trade-in target. It can be special summoned by the field spell Gear Town. More on that later. And it's a lovely little beat stick. Now this is a little bit different. Beast Machine King Barbaros Ur. Not a lot of people remember him. In case you don't, he's a 3800 beat stick. You can special summon him by removing a machine and a beast warrior from your hand field or graveyard. Not hand deck or graveyard, that'd be broken. And he can't deal battle damage. But while skill drains up, that's not important. Usually if Cyber End hits the grave, since it can't be revived, or a Barbaros hits the grave, it's usually not going to be. Normally they'd be dead cards there. He has a way of turning them into something good. 2 Gravekeeper's Commandant. I think by now you've guessed what the other field spell in the deck is. And the last monster, I'm testing 1 Sin Truth Dragon. Not a lot of people do this, but he's a nice little card. I mean, half your life points, that's really steep. 5000 beat stick that will let your other monsters attack and actually has a positive effect even without skill drain. He's very nice. And since he can come back from the grave and he doesn't miss timing, he's certainly worth testing, so that's what I'm going to do. On to spells. 3 Gear Town. This thing is lovely because if you activate it and then set a field spell, not only do you get Gadgeltron Dragon, your opponent cannot Solemn Warning, because it's not an initial activation. For any of you who've ever made that mistake, wrong! 2 Necro Valley. Yes, you guessed it. Shutting down the grave is awesome this meta. Heroes hate it. Inzectors hate it. Dino Rabbit doesn't hate it as much, but still dislikes it. Wind-ups really hate it, because now they can't loop. 2 Terraforming. Because you're running field spells, so you're going to want to be able to search into them. Normally I'd run 3, but I don't need them for Necro Valley because I'm running Commandants. Triple MST, because you're going to want to kill spells and traps, and that's a great way to do them. 3 Trade-In. My usual rule is run 1 Trade-In for every 3 targets. I have 9. 3 Stardust, 3 Barbaros, 1 Barbaros Ur, and 2 Gadgeltron Dragons, so I'm justified. And it's a nice little thing. It turns dead cards into live ones. Speaking of draw, Upstart Goblin. 2 of them. Because, yeah, giving my opponent 1000 life points sucks. But with this deck, that's not going to mean much. Random Tech Time! 1 Royal Tribute. Because it's something else that the current meta hates. If I drop this with a Necro Valley out, if I've got a beater, my opponent is hurting. Allure of Darkness, because I run Darks, naturally. Not as many though, so it's a little bit riskier of a play, always be careful when running it. But, I suppose if you had to banish Truth Dragon, it's not that big of a deal. Heavy Storm, because I may not have my cards down yet, or there's something a little bit crafty I can do with it. And Dark Hole. rounds off the panel because, well, he's just good. Traps, 2 skill drain. Yes, I know what you're thinking. You should be running 3. And normally I'd agree with you, but it's not overly necessary because the deck has draw and search power, and it has Gadgetron Dragon to do stuff that's good. If I feel like I need a 3rd skill drain, I'll put it in here, but for now I'm just doing tech testing. Like this. Proof of Powerlessness. This deck has all but 2 monsters as higher than level 7. And the meta is contingent upon level 5 or lower monsters. Almost everything the opponent will be running is level 5 or lower. The only things that don't qualify are Grapha, Xyz, which you can stop your opponent before they make most Xyz, and Hero Fusions, which again you can stop your opponent before they get those. And since it can be used on the opponent's turn and it's chainable, there's really not a lot of risk from it. A compulsory evacuation device for those times when destruction simply won't work. And it's got another trick with another card in here. Zing Zenhu, because freezing up 2 of the opponent's back row cards is a really nice touch. And there's probably some sort of destruction I could run, or I could switch it to a 3rd skill drain. I'm just testing the card at the moment because in such a back row heavy format, I think it's just a nice jinx on your opponent. And lastly, in any back row heavy deck, Star Road! It doesn't interfere as much as you'd think because a Sin Stardust that no longer has a Stardust is still a trade-in or an Allure of Darkness target, and with Compulse, if I really need to, I can bounce the Stardust. Why in God's name I'd ever do that, I'm not sure, but in theory, I can. And then, of course, the only extra deck would be 3 Cyber End, 3 Stardust, and 9 filler cards just to bring it up to 15. And that's it for this deck profile, guys. If you liked it, you can subscribe. If not, well, you can tell me what I need to improve on, maybe stop watching in the future. And if you want to see more videos, go check out my friend WoW Swag, and go check out Deck Silent Enigma, because he's doing a lot of fun stuff right now. Peace out.